Hebrews 8. We're often told in this letter to the Hebrews that Jesus sat down next to God. We've got an example of it here in verse 1 of Hebrews 8. We have such a high priest who sat down on the right hand of the throne of the Majesty in the heavens. Indeed, the point of contrast is made with the Jewish priests who had to stand whilst they ministered. But Jesus, we're told, has sat down. About 12 times this point is made, that Jesus has sat down next to the right hand of God. So Jesus sits, not stands there. And there he makes intercession for us. But in the book of Acts, we read of how Stephen, the first Christian martyr, was stoned to death. And as he was dying, he had a vision of Jesus in heaven. And Stephen saw Jesus standing, not sitting, at the right hand of God. Stephen was in a desperate situation. He was about to die. He was being stoned to death, and he was praying to God. And Jesus was there in heaven, interceding to God for Stephen, asking God to help and finally save Stephen. And Jesus stood up to beg God for Stephen. So you see, Jesus has passion and emotion. Having God's nature doesn't mean that we're passive and stone-faced without emotion. No, God himself has passion and emotion. So we come to a wonderful conclusion. Jesus watches us. He sees our crises and our desperate situations, and he prays to God for us. He, as it were, gets up out of his seat, like spectators do at a match, because they're so intensely watching an intense moment in the game. Jesus is the same. Man is not alone. Jesus is intensely, passionately involved in our lives. He's watching, and not only watching, but begging God for us, because he's on our side. He's not looking the other way and just thinking about returning to earth to judge us. No, right now, he is involved with us. He feels for us. He once had our nature. He knows what it is to be human, to face death, to be in crises. This is what it is to believe that Jesus is with me.